Welcome to Zzounds is Paid Off. What's next? What is this, part 5? I thought we would have a decision by now, but we've had a few monkey wrenches thrown back and forth regarding making this decision. The Focusrite Scarlett 18i20 audio interface has 8-channel preamps. It has ADAT in and out, USB interface, and supposedly you can use it for a preamp to send the analog signals, am I right, to your ADAT machines. So it doesn't no. Here's what I'm going to say. I made that last statement not knowing that, but let's look at this guy. Let's see if we can get it's got a lot of nice XLR, 1/4 inputs, outputs, MIDI, there's the optical ports, there's a word clock, SPDIF, I hear people say something like that. I usually just say SPDIF, so it uses a USB-C cable. I think Focusrite products are having a summer sale until the end of July. That's when I kind of noticed it on Zzounds. I'm like, well, this is expensive, but it's a little bit cheaper. $60 cheaper, it looks like. I couldn't find really any reputable sellers that sold them cheaper to try to price match. But I went to 3 different sources with questions. First, I went to a home studio equipment group and asked about this system, and asked about my Fostex VF160 to see if it could potentially be used to transfer, music, individual tracks from the multi-track recorder through this guy and into a PC for multi-track software. And I also asked if the preamps could be connected to the Fostex to give it, that 16 channel simultaneous recording, even though I'd kind of later find out that ADAT only supports 8, 44.1 and maybe 48 kilohertz tracks at once transfers. And I'd also find out that the Fostex VF160 transfers through ADAT in real time, so there's no way to speed load or speed send out the data real fast. So I'm assuming you have to press record on the tracks and then press play on the Fostex, if that worked. The other 2 places I emailed were Zzounds and Focusrite themselves. And the first people that responded were from the groups, the music groups, and for the most part, it's why mess with old technology at all, like an old IDE multi-track recorder, because it records onto a hard drive, has no USB outputs, no FireWire outputs, although I guess FireWire is sort of antiquated and outdated as well. And it seems like ADAT is kind of still a thing for adding, a series of preamps and stuff into hubs and interfaces. Like this guy here, the 1820, will allow you to connect another 8 up to 8 channel preamp to it, so you can use this with another system like the Behringer 8000 or 8200, or probably was it the Octo Pre-8 or whatever, and make a 16 channel interface to go to your computer to record, do your multi-track that way. So people on this forum gave me an alternative to this guy and said you could use a UMC 1820, I think is what it's called, by Behringer, which it seems to be kind of like a ripoff of this guy. Maybe not as many features, but it's a preamp, 8-channel preamp plus an interface as well. So there that guy is for $229. You can get that interface, and then you can add the 8200, new for about $180. Could probably find an 8000 used for probably $100 or less if you look for, long enough on eBay and such. So basically, after tax, shipping, whatever, you're looking at less than $450 for that 16 tracks recording that you can just stick, connect to your computer system, and then use, I guess, whatever software that is compatible with it. This UMC 1820 has both, in and out ADAT, light pipe, or SPDIF. So I'm guessing it's sort of a clone of that 18i20 Scarlett. So after looking at the manual for that UMC 1820 and doing some Google searching, people are saying that it will not work to send those analog preamps through the ADAT to anything. It has to be connected to that USB. They go through the USB connection, which kind of sucks, but it does still seem like they sort of took that product and, I guess it's not really a clone after all if it doesn't do everything. Whereas you have that control interface software for the Focusrite that allows you to change, I guess, some of the stuff, how it works. So next, Zzounds emailed me back. They said, well, we looked through the VF160 manual, and we do not think that this Focusrite Scarlett 18i20 will work in either of the configurations you're talking about. And they mentioned something about, it sends track data but not actual music or something. I can't remember the exact reply. I'd have to look at it on email. But to me, I was scratching my head saying, this doesn't sound right. I don't know if I want to believe that this person knows what they're talking about. And then they might, but I just don't know. Then we finally got an email from Focusrite themselves. He said, thanks for getting in touch. I expect this would be possible. I'm not familiar with the VF160, so there may be something unforeseen which might throw a spanner in the works, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. The 18i20 would be able to receive 8 channels of 44.1 kilohertz audio via its ADAT input and record those individually into a recording application on a computer. You can also set the 18i20's analog inputs to be routed to the ADAT output, meaning your VF60 would be able to receive that data on its own input. This should allow you to record 8 channels of Scarlett and 8 channels of Fostix into your computer while simultaneously sending the Scarlett's inputs to the Fostix to be captured there along with its built-in inputs. So we first had people saying, why do it unless you are just transferring, old music from your Fostix. And I do have some of that on the Fostix, of course. But they couldn't see any other reason I would want to use an old multi-track and connect it, through these more modern interfaces into modern computer, PC, Mac, whatever editing programs. Then you had Zzounds saying they didn't think it would work. And now, it's kind of like there's a monkey wrench because that product was never considered until that sale on, that summer sale they had, just had these items pop up, and I clicked on them. And then when I read, the description, it's like, well, this might work. So this, should we email these people and these companies? And I did. And obviously Zzounds, as I said, said it wasn't probably going to work. And then I kind of dropped, just about said, okay, well, I'm not going to take a chance and have to return this item, if they even allow returns. I think Zzounds has a pretty good return policy. And then Focusrite emailed me last. Hey, and then, and now this interface is back on the table. So problem is, we were kind of supposed to make our decision on this video. I kind of hoped that would happen, but with all these monkey wrenches, I'm doing a little bit more contacting people, a little bit more research, and maybe in the next video. So I'm going to tell you that there are still things on the list, still things in the running or whatever, and there are a few things I think I'm taking off of that list. I think the CM81 Shure microphone versus the CV12. I think, the Shure microphone is good for acoustics, drum overheads, possibly pianos. Not so good, I guess, for vocals and stuff. I've seen some tests where, it just it's not as versatile as what the CV12 is. The CV12 can do almost anything, it seems like. Now, it may not be better than the CM81 at specific tasks. The CM81 may be way better at specific tasks, and a lot of times you would probably want pairs, possibly to do your acoustic recording, possibly for pianos and for drum overheads, whereas usually when you have a large diaphragm condenser like the CV12, you'd probably just use one for your acoustic, one for your vocals, and I've seen people use single ones on drums, although I'm not sure that is the greatest idea. It was probably just experimental. Next, I think we're going to take the Zoom, mixers, multi-track recorders. The L12, the L20, and L20 are off of the table. I think, since I tested the Fostex VF160 out, seems to be working just fine. I think that it's not a big deal to have like 96 kilohertz 24-bit sampling rates, and if we have an 8-channel XLR interface, I think it's less important to get that on board like the Zoom has, versus being okay to have a 2-channel XLR system on the Fostex and 8 channels on an interface. So the two Friedman overdrive, the pedals that I've been looking at, the deluxe and the single, are still on the table. I mean, I think that they sound really cool, and I like toys, and the distortion pedals and new effects pedals are fun. But the thing is, I do have a lot of distortion pedals. I do have 2 multi-effects processors, 3 if you count an acoustic one, and more if you count some of the amplifiers that have DSP effects in them. Actually, I have another multi-effects processor too, but I think it stays in the bounds of like courses and reverbs. It might have a few little distortion or overdrive channels or something, but yeah, so I do have a lot of, distortion pedals and distortion, what do you call it? Or emulation or whatever you call it, like on the Line 6 HX Stomp XL. I think we're going to leave it at that with this video. So, you know, we took some options off of the table and we brought, you know, one option, one new option to consider and to talk about. And, you know, everything that's on the list is a good idea, I think, as long as everything works the way I would hope. Take care, and I guess we will see you on the next video.